Well, sadly, the report is actually more about the infiltration of pro-Palestine movements, particularly in the West, and this is related very much to the UK. It's an investigation that was largely done by Professor David Miller, but I participated in it at Palestine Declassified with Chris Williamson and David Miller. So this is a concert that's actually coming up on the 17th of September, Together for Palestine. There's a huge array of musicians and artists, very well-known ones, that are performing, as they believe, to raise funds for Palestine. But the reality is, if we look at the background to the organizations that are effectively organizing this event, so if we look at, first of all, Choose Love. This is just one organization that I'm going to focus on today. And here is David talking about it on the Palestine Declassified report that we did.
Zionist foundations called the Jewish Philanthropies and others, and including also some British Zionist foundations who have been giving them money. And also in there is the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, which of course is a well-known, it says in the film there, a CIA pass-through. Now what that means, of course, is that in previous decades, that what would happen is that the Rockefeller Brothers and the Ford Foundation and other big foundations would take money from the CIA and would pass it on to other organizations. So it would disguise the role of the CIA in pushing money out to what were effectively CIA assets. Now that appears to be what's happening with Choose Love, and there are a whole range of other organizations which are funding it, which indicates that there are questions to be asked about its activities. It's not just about helping refugees or relieving suffering in earthquake regions or after disasters. It's also about, it looks like, pursuing the interests of powerful actors, including in the national security state in the US and perhaps even elsewhere.
In fact, Choose Love has multiple funders that are related to the Zionist movement in the UK and the US. And in fact, Choose Love celebrated the fall of Syria, supported the fall of Syria and the rise of Al-Qaeda to power in Syria. In fact, they gave $500,000 to the CIA MI6 incubated White Helmet organization that we've written about and covered many times on UK Column, to investigate the alleged crimes committed at Sednaya prison. Even the White Helmets now have walked back many of the claims that they made back in December 2024. So Choose Love is clearly has a bias towards supporting Israel. It doesn't allow any support, for example, of the BDS, the Boycott, Divestment and Sanction movement. And then let's have a look at Together for Palestine, the actual organization that was established in May 2025 and is now running this event, again, as I said, ostensibly for Palestine. But let's have a look at the directors of this organization, Anna Catherine Nolan and James Sardry, both of them co-directors and co-founders of the Syria campaign. What was the Syria campaign? Syria campaign was the main PR arm or auxiliary of the White Helmets that promoted regime change in Syria, claiming to be a human rights advocacy group, but in fact criminalizing the Syrian government. And of course, the White Helmets ran the propaganda reference chemical weapons that were used to basically, in the end, criminalize the Syrian government and allies. And all of these organizations that formed a huge regime change complex, effectively established and run by the intelligence agencies in the countries invested in regime change in Syria, and that includes the UK. And finally, there will be a link in the show notes to a new article by David Miller that goes into far greater depth of infiltration, a cardinal function of the Zionist movement. But what is worrying is the extent to which the Zionist movement has, as we've said before, infiltrated special interest groups, NGOs, soft power within the UK itself, and is now behind the scenes of many of what appear to be pro-Palestine organizations.
I'm just going to mention before we move on, Charles, David Miller's also published articles on this issue at the UK column as well. So do have a look on the UK column website as well as Smith Press.
Yeah, absolutely. Vanessa, thank you very much indeed.